He hadn't even moved yet when I heard the soft echo of heels in the hallway. He thought it was just for him, this entire setup, the evening, the atmosphere. But I had a plan of my own, and it was already unfolding before he even realized. If you've been here before, you probably already know how my stories go. And if this is your first time, welcome. Let it unfold slowly. I promise it's worth it. The silk of her dress whispered against her sides as she entered. Soft, deliberate. The kind of fabric that speaks without sound. I leaned toward him and let my fingers rest at the base of his neck. Just enough pressure to make him pause mid-thought. He didn't move. Not because of me, but because of her. She was standing right in front of him now, less than 2 feet away. Younger, polished, confident in that perfectly composed way. She stood like someone who knew she'd been seen and was ready for it.
She didn't acknowledge me.
I didn't need her to. My hand stayed where it was, gently brushing his neckline, where he always kept it too neat. She took a step closer. Still, I didn't move. His hands were still near me, but they'd gone quiet. Frozen. That was all I needed to know. She lowered herself slowly onto the ottoman across from us. Knees tucked, eyes raised to meet his. No one had said a word yet. She was the one he'd been watching lately. The one I had invited. His surprise. Or so he believed. The room was warm, not from temperature, but from something else. A hush that lived in the space between us all. She glanced at me, briefly, uncertain. And I smiled. She didn't know I'd left the door unlocked. Didn't know the story wasn't finished. Not yet. Then came the knock. I didn't react. Not even a blink. He turned at the sound, startled, unsure. She looked up too, her posture tightening slightly. I stayed right where I was, steady, calm. My hand still lightly at his neck. Another knock, louder this time. He looked at me, waiting for instruction. I nodded. He rose first. She stood a moment after, her hands smoothing down the side of her dress. I remained seated, listening to the rhythm of his steps across the floor. He didn't ask who it was. Didn't hesitate. Just turned the handle. The man in the doorway stood taller than I remembered. Rolled sleeves. Measured posture. Still eyes. He looked at me first. And nodded. That kind of nod that means, yes, I'm here. And I understand. My husband hesitated. Just for a moment. His body language flickered between confusion and cautious intrigue. He turned slightly toward me, unsure if this was still part of what I'd planned. It was. The other woman stood behind him, frozen. I took a step forward. The man said nothing as he entered. His calm was undeniable. He walked past me, without pause, and stopped directly in front of her. Not me. Her. She looked between us, trying to interpret what hadn't been explained. And I let her sit in that moment of not knowing. My husband turned slowly again. His expression had changed. Not resistance. Not discomfort. Interest. I walked behind all 3 of them and gently closed the door. The latch echoed, final and certain. No one moved. I brushed past her with a glance, just enough to acknowledge her presence. Then I stopped in front of him. He looked at me, steady now, waiting for an answer. I leaned close enough that only he could hear. He's not here by accident, I said softly. And neither was she. Then I stepped back again, hands at my sides. Composed. A few seconds passed. Then I turned toward the man I had invited. I gave him the same look I'd given her earlier. One that didn't ask a question, but answered it. He stepped forward. Not toward me. Toward her. He didn't stop until the space between them was gone. She didn't lean away. Didn't flinch. She looked at me. And I didn't blink. I just nodded. It wasn't permission. It was a signal. She breathed out slowly and adjusted the edge of her dress. That simple gesture changed the weight in the room. My husband hadn't moved, but I could feel his attention shifting. His hand returned to my side. Not to hold me back. To stay connected. I turned and caught his eyes. Then I brought his hand lower. A quiet redirection. He didn't resist. Across the room, the man touched her arm. Not urgently, like an artist tracing the edge of something delicate.
She didn't retreat.
There was no hesitation now. I leaned back into my husband the way I do when I want him to feel everything. The sound of her breath, the rustle of silk, the subtle creak of the floor beneath someone else's shoes. This time, he didn't pull back. I placed my palms on his chest, measured, calming, and I guided him backward, step by step. No rush. He understood.
When he sat, I followed.
There was no performance in it, just intention. I rested into his lap, not to take control, not to give it up, to hold the moment. I framed his face with my hands and let my voice hover above his lips. She was yours, I said, but he's mine. Then I turned his chin, directing his gaze to what he hadn't dared to look at fully. Our eyes met once more. He didn't ask questions. He already understood. I settled into place, still, grounded. Not a word passed between us, but the entire room felt like it was holding its breath. Behind us, something shifted again. Not footsteps, not noise, just the pressure in the air. She turned her head, not toward me, not toward him, but somewhere between, caught in a moment that hadn't fully chosen her yet. My husband's chest lifted beneath my palm. His breath slowed, then deepened. He wasn't reacting to action. He was responding to possibility. I adjusted the collar of my dress, just a slight touch. Not to invite, to settle. Stillness took over the space. She made a sound then, a breath, not a word, just enough to shift the silence. I laid my hand gently on his chest again. Not pulling, not pushing, just feeling. Then I tilted his face, not to make him look, just to help him see.
And he saw.
Everything. Unfolding. Unspeakable. Inevitable. His eyes didn't leave her, but mine didn't leave him. He blinked once. The kind of blink that means everything inside just changed. Not chaos. Not collapse. Just shift. Recognition. His hand stayed at my waist, warm and steady. Not holding on. Anchoring. And when the silence finally changed, not from outside but between us, it wasn't collapse. It was confirmation. I had shaped this moment. I had stayed present for all of it. And he finally understood what it meant to witness something without needing to control it. His breath remained slow. Mine stayed calm. Neither of us looked away. So now I ask you, what would you have done in a moment like that? Let me know in the comments. I always read what you share. And if you haven't already, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. Thank you for being here.